So knowing that the seed of your last record, Walking Through Fire, actually began with that songwriting session where you were literally walking through fire, what was the seed for this record, Stand for Myself?
It was one of those moments where I realized that it was time, and very much a natural progression from the last record, that having emerged from the fire, and some of my burns, you'll see, I got this burn fighting the fire with a garden hose. And like, I didn't realize at the time that I was burnt. Like, my eyelashes are completely gone. They were like just burned off. My hands were burned, my face and my nose and my cheeks and my chin were burned, and like my legs and my stomach. I was burned like loads, but I had no idea. And I was just fighting this thing. But then, the fire was out and I went to building my life. And at just before that time, my mother had died of motor neurone disease in 2013. And so I was in this kind of transformative period when this fire happened. And then I decided that I was gonna, start writing again and be creative. So that's kind of where this record picks up from. The last record was about this transition, about the old kind of butting heads with the new and letting go of the old, everything old. And this is very much about what it took to grow into the person that's ready to stand in her truth. And so that's really what this record is about. And like, pretty much an entire paradigm shift in my thinking. And that's what I'm hoping everyone else gets a chance to go through too.
So what about working with Dan? What's changed since like the last record to this record? I love Dan Auerbach and I love Easy Eye Sound and everything that he does.
Yeah, he's a genius. Let's be clear about that. And we love Dan. And so for the first record, crucially, I'd never met him.
What?
I know. So I hadn't met the guy. It's like, hey, do you want to make a record with a person you've never met? Sure.
And the first thing you had to tell him about was like the fire.
Yeah. Well, we actually wrote Shady Grove first, which is probably a slightly easier get in than, hi, I was a Human Torch. Nice to meet you. And so, so that's really, but as you can tell by that, the fact that you said that makes a very astute point. It's hard to go super deep with someone you've just met. So it ended up being more of a collaborative process, in that, there were always three writers in the room and it was very even split on what was contributed in that regard. Maybe apart from It Ain't Easier that I'd written before I'd met him and I brought to the record. But yeah, that's what it was. Whereas this one, because of lockdown, we couldn't be in the room with people.
Yeah.
And so there was no bit where I just got to go back and do all of that again. It's like, right, okay, you're on your own, lady. Stabilizers are off. You've met people in this city now. Like, obviously, I wasn't from this continent even.
Whether it's a lesson that you learned from Dan in studio, just as you were coming into your own, or maybe it's like an instrument suggestion. What's something from Dan that is on this record that came from Dan?
Oh my gosh. Well, most obviously on Stand For Myself, when that guitar rips in, that's
Dan.
I'll tell you right now, because I looked at him, I'm like, yes, everything you just did. I'm like, yes, more that, please that. And so that was a real moment, as you can imagine. It's a very visceral song, and I'd been playing I'm the Black Gold of the Sun. And they're like, we haven't come across this song. And I'm like, okay, it's definitely of your era more than it is of mine. But I suppose we got into different things. And so that was a bit where I got to we got to do a lovely exchange of musical influence and awareness.